Hi everyone, Savannah here, and today we're creating a dramatic monsoon sky in Procreate. I'm using my free brush set, which you can find in the description down below, as well as a link to my color palette and template that I use for this image. Feel free to follow along and let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is change that background color. So click into layers, select background color, and scroll up in the palette section until you find the monsoon color palette that I provided. We're going to use this really dark blue color for that background. Then go ahead and add a new layer, bring it below the outline layer, and grab the circle blend brush. We're going to start working on where the thunderstorms are, the lightning here in the background, and then we'll work on the darker blue section here in a second. So we're going to add in some of this pinky color here, just in this open area here down below where you see the lightning kind of strikes. We're gonna add some pink color there. We're gonna add some yellow, some other bright colors as well to this area where the lightning is going to be. And this is one of my favorite themes I think that I'm doing so far this monsoon week. This is something from my childhood. My mom grew up in Arizona, and so we would go back every couple of years, and especially in August time, there's monsoon season. So this is kind of inspiration from that. Just those Arizona monsoon months. It's just such an amazing thing to see all the lightning hitting across the sky and the rain. It just is fantastic. So that's where the inspiration came for this. I am adding in some of this lighter color here where that lightning is going to be. I will add more color variation here before we go into the rest of the sky area. I just want to kind of keep building up where the lightning's hitting, keep lightening it up with these colors. So with some yellow, with some pink, we'll do a little bit of white for that lightning strike. But I just, again, want to lighten this section up to make it really pop against the darker clouds that we're going to be doing here in a little bit. And I'm doing the lightest color. It's hard to see with the screen here, but I am doing the lightest color. You can see the reference image in the bottom left, but I'm doing the lightest color where that lightning is going to hit. And then I'll kind of add in a little more depth, blend these out a little bit. So grabbing colors in between by using, holding that finger down, grabbing the colors that are kind of blend in between and just keep blending these areas out. Now I know it is hard to see this. I will turn the brightness down here in a second on my camera settings. It was a little bright. Didn't really notice that until I got a little bit further in, but just keep building up, going lighter with that light yellow towards where the lightning strikes are going to be and blending it out, going darker towards the edges with the pinkish color. You really want that lightning to kind of stand out. You want your eye to be drawn to it. It's going to be the brightest the brightest part here in the image. So just keep adding in some of that lighter color there. And here's where I adjust the camera settings. So hopefully you can see this a little bit better of what it's supposed to look like. Again, I include that reference image in the bottom left so that you can have that as a visual as we keep going through these different sections. But hopefully this brightness makes it a little bit easier for you to kind of follow along with this video. So we're going to build up again, like I said, we're going to have this very bright area here, and then we're going to take this dark blue that we use for the background. We're going to trace around the shapes here. And so we're doing this because we want it to not be messy. We could do kind of the clouds over top of it, but I kind of want to clean it up a little bit. So I'm using that same blue that we used for the background and just kind of tracing along the lines that are in that outline layer just to clean it up. And then we'll add clouds, these darker blue clouds in front of it. It's kind of like these clouds are parting and you're seeing a little bit of that lightning in the background. And so that's what we're kind of going for here. So just kind of clean up those lines. We will add more details in a little bit, but for now, we're just going to add these lines in. And again, we're going to do the same thing to this upper area as well, just kind of following the lines from the outline layer. And once we're done with this, we'll start working on the other areas of these darker clouds. And I really want to go dark with the clouds to make the lightning area or the opening to really pop against this dark sky. And the lines that we're doing here won't stay this sharp. We will kind of soften them up as with fluffy clouds. And so don't worry about it if you didn't follow the outline exactly, but we're going to grab that circle blend brush. We're going to start adding in some lighter colors. Not too light. We still want it to be dark and stormy, but we are going to add a little bit of this lighter blue color and blend it out. We'll keep adding different colors just to keep building up on this cloud area. But again, we're kind of trying to keep it a little bit darker, especially near where that opening is. And we don't have to be perfect with adding these clouds. We will blend everything as we go along. So just start adding in the color where you want this lighter color to be. And then we'll pull in some medium tone colors. We'll pull in that darker color again, but just add in that color for now. And then we will work on blending that as we continue in this area. And because this is not an alpha locked layer, I'm going very carefully around where we just traced the outline. So it's not alpha locked because the only thing that we had on this layer before we started adding these other clouds is the outline around that opening. So if we set it to alpha lock, we would only be able to color those outlines. So I'm just going a little bit more carefully around those edges. And I'm going to use this dark color to kind of soften these edges. Again, I want this to be darker near the opening. So I'm using the dark blue here to soften the edges a little bit, add some more of the clouds, and blend out a little bit from this medium blue color that we have going on. And because we're using that circle blend brush, it is pressure sensitive, so you can just go very lightly with where you're placing the clouds. You don't have to go too heavy-handed or use too much pressure to add the clouds. You can keep them light and fluffy. If you do want to go a little bit more dark, and I'll add a little bit more here in a second, you can definitely do that, but just know, again, it is pressure sensitive brush, and so you can make them as fluffy or as full as you want them to be. And feel free to change the brush size as well. You don't have to stay with the same brush size if you want a little bit thicker clouds or thicker edging around this opening. Definitely do that. If you want them smaller, you can do that as well. So really up to you how you want this to look. And again, I'm just kind of going around the edge that we outlined here and just adding a little bit of this fluffy cloud edging here. I want it to look like these clouds are kind of passing over where this opening is. And so that's why I'm kind of going a little bit softer with this. With some of these clouds, I'll bring in a little bit more darker. I think the ones at the bottom are a little too wispy for me. So I'm adding a little bit of darker color to it. But again, I just want these clouds to look like they're just gliding across the scene where this lightning is happening. Now, I did try to alpha lock the layer here and add some of this magenta pink color, but I wasn't liking how it was looking by doing alpha lock because, again, we are using a brush that's pressure sensitive, so it's not fully covering the background. And so I just turned it off. I wanted to add in more of this color and not have it kind of blend out with the background. And so that's why I turned that alpha layer back off. And then I added some pink. So I'm trying to add a little bit more pink hues, purple hues to these clouds just to give it a little bit more variation, pull in a little bit more of that pink that we have from the background where that lightning's happening because I want it to look really stormy. I want it to look like these clouds are kind of angry with all these different colors, and so I want to give it a lot of different dimension, and so that's why I'm pulling in some of the pink. I'll pull in some more of the darker blue color to tone it down just a little bit, but that's kind of where I wanted to go with these clouds. And a lot of this I'm blending out with that medium tone blue. Again, I'll go in with a little bit of the darker one here right now just to bring it down a little bit, especially near those edges where those dark clouds are. But feel free to kind of pull in any of the colors. If you want to go a little bit more pink, you can pull in more of the pink. If you want to go more purple, you can pull more of the purple. But that's kind of where I'm landing, is pulling in a little bit more of that darker blue here, while still having pops of these pinks and purples in the clouds. And now with the clouds complete, let's go ahead and add the lightning bolts to that background that we started with first. So we're going to grab that really light yellow color, then go to your disc in the color wheel here and grab an even lighter white color. And I'm going to use a circle blend brush for this because it'll look a little bit not as stark. It'll kind of blend a little bit better. Turn that outline layer back on, and we're just going to add in the lightning bolts. You can add more if you want, you can do less if you want, but we're just going to go and follow along the lines here, just very lightly sketching those lightning bolts in. And we are doing these on a separate layer so we can add in some brightness to them. So make sure you have the lightning bolts on the layer above that pink sky layer, but below the blue clouds. And now that we have that, let's go ahead and duplicate that layer. So you swipe left, click duplicate, and then we're going to do a Gaussian blur on that bottom layer just to give it a little bit more of a glow for these lightning bolts. And then I am cleaning up a little bit of the clouds. I'm just erasing a little bit. I thought it went a little too far out over where my lightning bolt is. So I'm just cleaning the clouds up real quick before moving to the next step. And now one more thing I'm going to do with the lightning, I'm going to duplicate the layer, and on that middle one, I'm going to alpha lock it, grab that yellow from our color palette and then go back to layers and click into it and do fill layer. I just want to add a little bit more yellow to those lightning bolts. And now let's go ahead and add in the mountains in the backdrop. So I'm going to grab that blue that's fourth row down in the color palette. And I'll start with that color, trace the mountains in the background. And then I'm going to add in the other colors here. So we'll add in some lighter blue, but I'm going to stick with blue for these mountains. And I'm just outlining and filling in this shape. You can bring that color down a little bit more. We're going to do more layers on top of it, so you don't have to worry about, if you go too far or anything like that, it's going to be covered up. So don't worry about that. Just bring it down enough so that when we do add that top layer, you have the mountain area kind of filled in. But we're going to just add in this blue color, and then we will add in other variants of this kind of blue color for the other mountains. And now go ahead and alpha lock that layer so we can add in the other colors. Grab that circle blend brush and we're going to do the lighter blue color here. So as you kind of go further away, across the horizon, and the atmosphere kind of makes those colors a lot more muted and a lot lighter. And so that's what I'm kind of doing here. So the further away the mountain is, the lighter I'm going to do. And then as you come closer to where you'd be kind of standing, it will become darker. And as I was filling this in, there's a couple areas that I just need to tweak at the top here. So I just turned off the alpha lock layer just to fix that. And now I'm going to turn it back on. We're going to add that mid blue color here and add in just another variation here for the mountain. So I'm just going to add it right into the section here on the left just to lighten it up a little bit to give a couple different mountain colors here in the background. And originally I was putting this lighter blue color in the front, but I actually wanted to do the darker blue because that's going to be closer to where you would be standing. So I want that to be in the forward area. And so that's why I'm kind of going back over this with that darker blue color. And now let's add the ground here, this kind of large area. So we're going to add a new layer, grab that green color, and then make sure you also have the circle brush, not the circle blend brush, and just drag a line across the surface here to make it a straight line. Keep your pencil touching the iPad and then hold your finger down, and that should make it a straight line. Then we're just going to go ahead and fill in a large area here of this green color. We will add other colors on top of it. We'll add some browns to this. We'll add some other, maybe some yellows to this just to brighten it up a little bit. But for now, just fill in with the green. And now let's go ahead and grab that circle blend brush, and then we are going to alpha lock this layer and start adding in those details. Like I mentioned, we are going to add in some brown, so just kind of lightly go across the surface of the screen area with that brown. We are using the circle blend brush, which is pressure sensitive, so you can alternate between lighter presses and harder presses here just to give some distinction. So as you can see, I have with this lighter green color that I'm adding in, I have a couple of the harder presses, which makes that really pop and brings in a lot more of that pigment. But I'm also doing lighter presses to kind of blend it in a little bit more. So just kind of go back and forth over this field with these colors. As we add in some details, we can add in some other colors as well. Now I am going to add some more color here. So I'm going to grab that circle light brush. And what that does is going to err more on the side of picking colors that are the original color that you have, but then also pulling in lighter shades of that color. And so I wanted to lighten this up a little bit more. It was starting to get a little too dark for me, and I want there to be a little bit of lightness here. And so that's why I'm using that circle light brush as part of the brush pack that I've created, just to add in some more color. You could even, with the original color that you have selected, if you want to go even lighter, just kind of on the color wheel, just go a little bit lighter and it'll be even more of a pop. And so that's what I'm doing here, is just adding in some more lighter colors with that circle light brush. You can do the same thing. I have a circle dark brush. You could do the same thing in the opposite direction. So if you want to go darker, use that circle dark brush and it'll pull in even more colors of that same color that you selected, but more in the darker tones. And I do want to add in some orange to the bottom here as well. So I'm going to grab some orange. I'm going to add in a lot of that color here. And then I'll add in some other tones here. I'll add some yellows and stuff. I just wanted to be a little bit brighter as you got closer to where, um, these plants are. I wanted to make them pop against this lighter area. And I did do this layer on a separate layer, but you can do it on that green layer that we originally did. I merged these two together, but once you have it where you want it to look, we'll move on to the plants. So grab a new layer, grab one of these green colors and that circle brush, and let's start filling in some of this plant life. I'm going to start with the general shapes first, to make sure that I like the colors I've selected, but also make sure the shapes are looking good. So we're going to add general shapes with one color, and then we'll go back through and add in details in a second. And as you're doing these plants, feel free to pick any of the green colors that I've added. You can also do colors outside of that. I'm kind of just picking various different colors that I want to use for these plants, and then I can go in and change them if I don't like the colors, or add in different highlights and different shadows and pull in other colors as well to change the colors of them in the end. And one thing I realized on that yellow green layer, I didn't come down far enough on the right side. So I'm going to go do that real quick, and then we'll keep working on those plants. And now add another new layer. We're going to do the ground here, where these plants are kind of resting on. So grab that brown color and we'll add in that ground layer here. Just at the bottom, we can move the layer where we want it to be. I think I want it behind some of these plants, so I'll move these around just to see where I want it. Make sure you have that circle brush selected, not the circle blend, and just start adding in this brown here. And now let's go ahead and add this plant to the left. It's a pretty big plant, so add a new layer, grab this kind of mid-green tone color, and just trace the outline of this plant or this cactus, and then we will fill it in, and then I'll show you kind of how I add in a little bit finer details here in a little bit. And now let's go ahead and alpha lock. Let's add details to this plant. We'll do the circle dark brush, and you can use that to kind of add in some variation. With this, I did go to the disc to make it a little bit darker, and I'm just adding in the dark where the shadows would be kind of hitting here. So I'm kind of having the light come from that top right, kind of where those thunderstorms are coming from. So everything to the bottom left and bottom are going to be darker. So I'm just going to go through some of these shapes. We are not filling in everything. It is it could be a very detailed cactus if you want it to be, and do each individual, but I'm just kind of picking a couple of these shapes, filling in with this dark color. We'll add in some lighter color, and then we'll kind of blend it out. I'll show you how I blend it out here in a second. And now that these shadows are complete, let's go ahead and add lighter color. So use that circle light color, go a little bit more light on the color wheel there, and do the same thing but in the opposite direction. So we added these shadows to the bottom left. Now we're going to add highlights to the top right. I did end up turning the outline layer off just so I can see as I'm working through this. I have the general shapes there just from the shadows, and so now I just turn it off so I can go off of what I want to look like for this cactus. And so again, top right, or the top areas where we're adding these these highlighted areas, and we're just going to go through that like we did with the shadows. And now we're going to grab that original color we used for this cactus. We're going to grab that circle blend brush, and we're going to start blending these. So it's very stark between the original color, the highlight, and the shadow. So I'm just going to go in between where the highlight and shadow we just put down. And I'm going to very lightly use that circle blend brush to blend those colors out. As you can see, it's starting to come to life here a little bit. It's starting to blend a little bit better. So we're going to do that on all of these areas that we just added those highlights and shadows to, and work on blending it out. And don't worry that there's not that much detail here on the bottom left because we're going to add more plant life. So we're going to do on, you could do it on the same layer as these green bushes, but we're going to grab this lighter yellowy green color. And I'm actually going to use a circle blend brush for this because I want it to be a little bit more wispy of a plant. So I'm just going to add that in here. We'll add a couple more plants. We'll add in some more details to these plants that we've already added in, but let's go ahead and add some of these plants here. And I ended up wanting to move this green plant behind the cactus here. So to do that, go to the layer it's on, click the S looking icon there, highlight it or circle around it, and then copy paste. That will put it on a new layer, so you can drag that down below, and then we just erase the plant from that old layer that it was originally on so that it's not there anymore. So that's what I ended up doing here because I wanted that plant behind. You don't have to have it behind if you don't want to. I just liked it visually to make it a little bit different. And then I'm just going to keep adding in some of these yellowy, limey green plants here in the front. And then again, we'll add in some more details to these other plants that we've already added. Now let's go ahead and add a little bit more details to the plant. So I'm going to grab a brown color. Still using that circle blend brush. I'm just going to go over a lot of these more yellowy colored plants to kind of tone them down. They're very bright. I don't want them to be that bright, but I want a little bit of that brightness. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit more and then add more colors here in a second. Now let's go ahead and add some orange to this as well. Again, we're just kind of building up the colors here just to give them more variation. Now I'm going to grab that brown color to tone this down. Again, it got a little too bright for me, so I'm going to use that brown to help tone it down. Now to give a little bit more variation on the bottom ground floor here, I'm going to grab that square blend brush. I'm going to add some of these more brown tones, these dark brown tones, and just give it a little variation. We also want to add a little bit of shadow from the plants, and so grab that brown color, go a little bit darker on the color wheel, and we're going to add a little shadow underneath where these plants are sitting. And I did add a little bit of yellow here as well. I just wanted a little bit more variation so it's not just brown on the ground here. You can keep it brown if you want to, but I just want to add a little bit more yellow to it. And now we can move on and update the other plants that we have. So grab that circle blend brush and add it. You can use that same yellow that we have selected and just add some of that coloring to the plants. Again, grabbing the original color to kind of tone it down a little bit, but it helps kind of give it some variation. And I am using that circle blend brush. I didn't alpha lock these layers because I wanted a little bit more wispy plant edges. And so that's why I'm using that circle blend brush. It'll help kind of spread those out to make them look a little bit more plant-like. But I'm just doing that on a non-alpha lock layer so that I can do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't go outside those lines. And then I am adding some of that yellow back in. So again, a lot of this is just blending in these multiple colors. If you go to light, you can bring in some of that original color to tone it down a little bit more, but just keep playing up those colors, add in other colors here until the plants are looking how you want them to look. And now we have this last plant in the back, and then we're going to add a few more details to the cactus. So grab a darker color, and we're just going to add some kind of a little squiggly-ish lines on it just to give it some variation. It is behind a couple plants, so you don't have to go too detailed with it. It's kind of hidden, but I'm going to darken it a little bit, add a little bit of definition to this, and then we'll add one more little detail to the cactus on the left. And with the other plants, I'm adding in other colors here. So I'm adding some browns. I'll add in some darker greens. Just play with the colors. You don't have to do the exact colors I'm using here, but this is kind of what I'm doing to bring in a couple other colors to this image. Okay, now one of the final things that we're going to do here is on the cactus, we're going to grab that really dark green color, the circle brush, and just start putting dots all over this cactus. I will blend these out so they look very stark, almost like Dalmatian dots here, but we'll blend it out and I'll show you what I do for that here in a second. But just go ahead and add dots all over this cactus. Now grab the original color we used for this cactus, grab that circle blend brush, and we're gonna go over this very lightly, just tapping over those black dots with that blend brush. It's gonna tone those down. It's gonna give it the look of a cactus, but not like it has a bunch of spots all over it. So that's what I did here for this cactus. So again, just very lightly um, touching the screen where these black dots are, to make them a little less stark and blend them out a little bit with that cactus. And with that, our monsoon drawing is complete. Thank you so much for spending time sketching storms with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, especially if you love moody weather scenes like this. I'm looking forward to the next video, and I'll see you all there.